The Drake-Car war fleet had descended upon settlement Epsilon 7 like a thunderstorm of scales and plasma fire. Their ships, massive biological constructs that breathed and pulsed with alien life, had torn through the colony's defensive grid in minutes. The dragon-like aliens were legends across 17 star systems, 8 feet of reptilian muscle, crystalline armor that grew from their very bones, and a warrior culture that had never known defeat. Chief Vexter stood in the settlement's central plaza, his crimson scales gleaming in the smoke-filled air. His warriors were efficiently herding the human colonists into groups, separating them according to the ancient protocols of conquest. The Drake-Car didn't slaughter civilians, they were honorable predators. They took what they needed: resources, technology, and occasionally, strong specimens for their labor worlds. That's when he felt the tug. Something small had latched onto the ceremonial plates of his chest armor. Vexter looked down, his triple-lidded eyes narrowing in confusion. A human child, a tiny female with dirt-streaked face and wild brown hair, had grabbed his armor with both hands. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked up at him with eyes that held more fury than fear. "Your warriors just took my mama," Betty screamed, her small fists pounding against armor that had withstood plasma cannons. The chief froze. Around him, his warriors paused in their duties, heads turning toward the unprecedented sight. No conquered species had ever dared touch their chief. Most fled at the mere sight of the Drake. This child, barely reaching his knee plates, was attacking him. "Human child," Vexter rumbled in his deep, translated voice. "Release me. Your kind has been conquered. Except Eno." Betty's voice cracked with desperation. "You bring her back. She didn't do anything. She's just my mama." Before Vexter could respond, another human burst through the crowd of prisoners. A young male, perhaps 17 standard years, with sandy hair and a bleeding cut above his eye. Norman had broken free from the containment group, dodging past two surprised Draco warriors. "Betty, get away from him," Norman shouted, skidding to a stop a few feet away. His eyes were wide with terror, but he spread his arms anyway, placing himself between the child and the chief. "Please, she's just 6 years old. She doesn't understand." Vexter studied the boy. This one was afraid, truly afraid, but hadn't run. Instead, he'd run toward danger to protect the smaller human. "Interesting. I understand perfectly," Betty sobbed, still clinging to the chief's armor. "They took Mama onto that ship. I saw them." The chief raised one clawed hand, and his warriors immediately stood at attention. In the sudden silence, he could hear the child's ragged breathing, see the way her small body trembled, not with fear, with rage and grief. He had seen such emotions before, but never in something so small. The female adult Vexter addressed his second-in-command. "Why was she taken separately?" "She is a xenobiologist, Chief Level 7 education. She has knowledge of 17 species medical systems. Our mission parameters designate such individuals as priority acquisitions." Betty's script tightened. "I don't care about your para whatever. That's my mama. She makes me breakfast and reads me stories, and she's the only mama I have." Something in those words struck Vexter like a plasma bolt. In Dracar culture, mothers were sacred. A mother raised her young in the breeding caves, teaching them honor and strength. To separate a child from its mother before the youth had shed its first scales. Was unthinkable, but these weren't Dracar. These were humans, the strange, soft-skinned species that had somehow spread across the galaxy despite having no natural weapons. No armor, no advantages of strength or speed. Yet they had resisted the Drake-Car fleet for 3 full days. 3 days more than species twice their size. Norman stepped closer, his voice shaking but steady. "Sir Chief, whatever you are. Betty's mother, Sarah, she's all the family Betty has left. Their father died in a mining accident 2 years ago. If you take Sarah, Betty has no one. Please, take me instead. I'm strong. I can work. Just let Betty have her mother." The boy was offering himself. Vexter's translator had to recalibrate. Surely it had made an error. But no, the human meant it. His vital signs showed terror, but his stance showed resolve. Betty looked up at Norman, then back at the chief. "You can take us both. Me and Norman. We'll work really hard. I'm small, but I'm strong. Please, just give us back Mama." Vexter felt something he hadn't experienced in 30 conquest cycles. Doubt. The Dracar measured honor in strength and combat prowess. But what was this, if not a different kind of strength? This child, facing a warrior who could crush her with one hand, refused to let go. This boy, running towards certain death to protect her, and the mother, who according to his data files, had fought 3 of his warriors to keep them from entering the children's shelter. The chief made a decision that would be debated in Drakkar Council chambers for generations. Released. The xenobiologist, he commanded. Return her here. His warriors stood in shocked silence. Norman's mouth fell open. Betty's eyes went wide. Chief, his second-in-command protested. The mission parameters, I am rewriting the parameters, Vexter interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Humans are not what our intelligence reports suggested. Any species that breeds such fierce loyalty in its young, such courage in the face of certain death, deserves our respect, not our conquest. He carefully detached Betty's small hands from his armor, then knelt down until his massive head was level with hers. Little warrior, he said softly, you have taught this old chief something today. You have shown me that strength comes in many forms. Betty sniffled, wiping her nose with her sleeve. Does that mean I get my mama back? Yes. 10 minutes later, Sarah ran across the plaza and swept Betty into her arms, crying and laughing at once. Norman stood beside them, one hand on Betty's shoulder, still looking dazed. Vexter watched them, then turned to his warriors. We leave this world. Spread the word through the fleet. Humanity is not to be conquered. They are to be offered alliance. As the Drakkar ships lifted off into the smoke-stained sky, Betty waved from her mother's arms, and for the first time in his long military career, Chief Vexter waved back. Sometimes, he reflected, the smallest warriors teach the greatest lessons. The end.